Hello, Jen here with a layout for Tuesday's inspiration and scrap shots. This is a layout that I'm using Lynda's umbrella inspiration. You can see it right there on the screen. That's from a couple of weeks ago, and I like everything about it. I like the colors. I definitely thought that maybe I could go for the colors, but I also kind of like the general design of it, and I thought it would be an interesting challenge to see if I could figure out how to replicate a page that had that kind of basic feel and design that you see in the picture. So my thoughts were to go for papers that kind of had some of the shapes or the feel, and then also just how could I cut those papers to give myself something that has that kind of feel and depth, kind of perspective of going down a hallway. So that's kind of what I'm going for. But there's lots of things you could do with this inspiration. You could take it more literally and do something with umbrellas and the rain, or you could pick out the colors. There's pillars in there. There's all kinds of fun shapes and images and feelings. And so this was definitely a good one because I think it definitely could inspire a lot of different things. So I'm pulling out my Discover and Create album, which is a travel album that I'm working on, and I'm trying to get it done. I'm not even a third of the way done, I don't think. So I'm really trying to push myself to get as many layouts done in this album as possible. So I just went to the next page that's ready to go. As you guys know, I like to print all my stuff out and kind of organize them that way, and then I can just work through my album and go page by page, or just pick the ones that are kind of popping out to me in the moment. But I decided I'm just going to grab the next page and make it work. So I went into my papers. Not all of those papers are actually from this collection, but a lot of them are. And I got them mostly from scrap shots, but also in some amazing happy mail from a very nice friend. And so, yeah, I pulled out things that I thought I would work. So these two papers here, I kind of thought have that general feel of like, some straight lines with like a dot in the center, which you kind of get from that picture. There's like the depth of walking down a hallway, so it comes to a point at the back of the photo, and you get that perspective. So I picked those two papers, and then this paper that I'm working on right here definitely kind of gives me the umbrella vibes. It has these geometric lines, and you can see that they create a bit of a hexagon with a point in the center, which is kind of umbrella-like. And then that green paper just kind of had the circle feel to it. So again, with the umbrellas. So I went ahead and cut those out. The two pieces that are going to be on top, the one that I'm cutting here and then the green one, those are about 6 by 4. And then the two longer ones are 8 by 3. And so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I cut out the 4 patterns, and my plan is to create some flaps that again give that perspective of starting out wider and moving towards the center to a point, just like you see when you're walking down a hallway or what you see in the photos. So that is the inspiration that I took from it, but definitely there were a lot of other things. You could have gone with, you know, the umbrellas literally, or the colors in the picture. Yeah, just all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I just think it's kind of fun sometimes when we've been doing this for so long now to try and think outside the box about what kind of inspiration. Sometimes it jumps out and you look at the inspiration image and you're like, oh, I just really, really have to do something that, you know, is calling to you, even if it's really obvious. And then other times it's kind of fun to just be a little bit more creative and see how you can really stretch yourself, because at the end of the day, it's genuinely all about getting a layout done. So in whatever way that layout takes its shape, and in whatever way that it kind of evolves, that's perfect. That's the inspiration. It's about getting those pictures onto the paper and getting something done. So this was kind of fun. I always love putting things together, especially in albums like this. I like to, figure out some little interactive elements because I tend to have way more pictures than I actually have space. And yeah, it's kind of, that fun challenge for me of getting them all to fit into the few pages that I have available. And then the other kind of aspect of these albums is I can't really bring, I mean, I guess I could, and some people do, but I feel like I try really hard not to bring a lot of extra layers and layers of embellishments, which are really fun to add on to layouts that are going to go into page protectors. But when you have a smaller real estate and you're trying to crunch a ton of photos from one event or, one kind of thing into a smaller album, sometimes adding that extra bulk with tons of embellishments can really kind of go from your album being able to close properly and sit properly and be on your shelf properly to just being way too big, and then things get crashed or, layouts get ruined and stuff like that. So, what I think is kind of fun is to figure out how to get as many pictures as possible and as much detail as possible without making them super bulky and adding a bunch of embellishments. So everything I'm using is kind of flat, but I'm bringing in as much detail as I can. So I added some Astro paste into the back there. Again, that stencil kind of gave me the umbrella vibes. So, the shapes, and then it looks like a parasol or an umbrella. So I thought that worked really good. It adds a little bit of a different kind of texture than just the matte kind of paper texture. And it's something a little bit fun and kind of surprising when you open up all of these flaps. And then it gave me a nice background for this little clipboard piece that I'm going to use to put some journaling on, and kind of covered up that bottle, because when I went through this album and put my photos into different places, I knew that I wouldn't always use the background paper exactly how it is. Sometimes you just have to use it as a background and you end up covering it all up. And so I didn't mind covering it up. It's just kind of, a little pattern sticking out in the back, but I just thought it created a really fun element. And then I went for some washi tape that had a bit of a design. I didn't want it to be too crazy or too busy. Some sort of sciencey thing would have been perfect, but I didn't have washi tape like that. So I thought this fun kind of rainbow pattern worked really good. And now I'm just adding a few kind of flat elements, some die cuts and stuff, and some of these washi stickers that are all from the collection. The odd one might not be. They were all kind of in my container. That yellow container is just filled with travel ephemera. So, I tend to keep the collections together for a little bit, and then they just sort of naturally all go into a theme rather than by collection. And so some very basic embellishments, again, to keep it kind of flat. There wasn't really a lot to tell about these pictures. They're from a museum. I wanted to kind of share the story, but I've done it on a few pages, that this is a museum that if you grew up in Ottawa, or if you frequented Ottawa, you know this museum really well. And it has this constant evolution to it because it's built on kind of on swampland that has been, turned into city land, and it's sinking. And so it gets renovated and built over and over again and kind of reinforced and stuff. So if you grew up there and you've gone many times to the Museum of Nature, it's really fun for me to be able to bring my kids back to this stuff and kind of tell the story. It's an absolutely beautiful building, and it has lots of fun interactive elements to it now. So I took a lot of pictures, and I kind of want all the pictures in the album, but I don't need to keep repeating the stories over and over again. So I just wanted to share that little bit, that You know, I went there so much as a kid, and now it was nice to bring my kids back so they could experience it too, kind of thing. And there's lots of new interactive elements, which are kind of fun. And then here is a flip through of the album as it looks today. And that's it. It was a pretty simple layout, but lots of fun to put together, and I hope that it inspires you guys to play around and use these inspiration images in different ways. Please check out Mel and Lynda and Hollie's work. I'll leave their links below, and the Scrapshots link as well. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, happy scrapping! Bye!